Hey kids, what time is it?
Hey, it's Edson with GeekTime TV. I just saw the first episode of this new series taking place in the Dune universe, Dune Prophecy it's called. Episode 1 just came out last week on HBO Max. Not a bad start, I think. I liked it. This series takes place about 10,000 years before the main Dune story, which we saw in the Villeneuve's movies with Paul Atreides. This takes place about 10,000 years before Paul Atreides is born. And the setup is 10,000 years into our future. Humans go out into space and they have settlements on other planets and all this advanced technology. And part of that technology is they gave a lot of kind of like let artificial intelligence do most of the work, more like trying to do less and less and relax more and not have to work. But what happens is the machines eventually take over and enslave the human beings. And so 10,000 years from now, there's this big battle called the Butlerian Jihad, where the humans say, that's enough, this is not what we signed up for, machines taking over us. And they have this war against the machines. It's sparked by, there's this character called Serena Butler, whose child was killed by the machines, and this kind of causes a spark to start the whole war of the humans versus the machines. There's a shot right at the beginning of this episode, really quick. It's probably like a minute, maybe a minute or two, where you see the humans fighting machines. Looks like something out of the Terminator, and I even heard another reviewer who may not have known much about Dune or a lot about Dune say, "Oh, it's a ripoff of Terminator." Well, no. Setting the story straight. Frank Herbert wrote his Dune stories long before the Terminator came around. So if anything, Terminator copies him. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. So you start off with that, and it has kind of like a voiceover that the humans overthrew the machines, and now about maybe 80 years or so after the end of that war, this particular story takes place. And you have the Bene Gesserit Sisterhood. I think the series is going to center a lot on the Bene Gesserit Sisterhood. They're an organization made up of all women who are training themselves to develop as many abilities as they can, just trying to reach the human potential. And their whole thing is they try to influence the empire, the different ruling houses. They try to influence them to try to do the right thing. They're trying to be in the shadows and influence the politics of it all without kind of being covertly. One of the things that they do, one of the abilities that they have trained for a period of time and can keep doing is to have them be truth sayers, which is basically a human lie detector test, except much better than a machine lie detector test, where they can tell whether someone's lying or not. And they offer these services to the emperor and all the ruling houses. They offer them to have one of their people to go and be a truth sayer, which, as you can see, is a valuable resource, because if you're negotiating with somebody or you're trying to figure out if someone's trying to deceive you, having someone that can detect whether someone's lying is a great advantage. So they offer that up, not just out of the goodness of their heart. No, what they're trying to do is gain as much influence as possible into the ruling houses, and by having their people there as truth sayers, they are able to gather as much information about what's going on with the ruling houses and all the politics, and be able to influence it that way. Another thing that they have going on is this massive database of all the population's DNA, the genealogy, and they call it a breeding program. What they're trying to do is they're trying to manipulate things so that any future leaders are coming from a match of the highest possible people with the highest with the best possible DNA, best possible genes, to try to maximize future leaders to be the best possible people that can be, or with the best type of abilities and advanced decision making and physical abilities and stuff. They're trying to make it so that future leaders are actually the best of the best in the population, and that makes sense, but. It does make perfect sense, and it's a great idea, but also that they're doing it so that they can be in control of those people as well, so that those people will answer to them, so they kind of like are able to, quote unquote, rule the universe from the shadows, so to speak. Another thing you see right at, towards the beginning of this episode, is another ability that they have, is called the voice, and you saw that happening in the Dune movies. Where they are able to modulate their voice, so that when they speak to someone, they are able to tell that person to do something, and that person automatically does it. The modulation of their voice affects a person's body, so that the body responds automatically without overriding any kind of conscious commands that the person may have. They automatically just do what they're told. But when not in every situation, but when they actually use this ability, the voice, there's a scene in this episode where we have here on the left Valia Harkonnen, the leader of the Bene Gesserit sisterhood. The one on the right is her sister Tula, and she uses that voice to literally tell another sister who she opposes to take out her knife and slit her own throat. So that's another ability that they have. So they have this training of all they have a training of the women that come to them, and a lot of people in the universe will send their daughters and to train with them, because they know what they're going to get, somebody with advanced abilities and things like that. But also what they don't realize is that the sisterhood is trying to be in control of it, where they're trying to get people to be loyal to them as opposed to the families that they come from. So then we have here and also the Bene Gesserit sisterhood are all set up in this planet called Wallach 9, and on planet Seleucus Secundus is where House Carino resides. There, where the emperor, the emperors are coming from. So currently, this emperor, played by Mark Strong, and he's trying to hold on to the ruling of the empire. It's very delicate, because even though this is 10,000 years before, still the same kind of circumstances happening, where his rule over the empire hinges a lot on what's happening in the planet Arrakis, which is where the spice mining occurs, because spice is the most valuable commodity in the universe, and all the ruling houses rely on it for profit, for all their benefits that they have. It's literally the one thing that you have to have going. So in the midst of this, there's a lot of issues going on. The Fremen are always attacking anybody trying to mine spice there. You have the dangers of the sandworms coming out of the underground and gobbling up your operations. So it's very, very difficult to do the spice mining, and he's trying to figure out how to make sure that stays that keeps going, so that he can satisfy everyone. And so in the midst of this, the leader of House Richez, which the Duke, comes to him and offers. The House Richez is very good with technology, so it comes to him and offers their military support, their newest ships, to be able to patrol Arrakis in order to keep spice mining going. And the Emperor, he feels like compelled to agree to a deal that the Duke of House Richez says, which is basically, in return for his military support for the Emperor, he wants the Emperor's daughter, Princess Inez, to marry his son. and thereby have the son of House Richez be part of the ruling class and be the next the next, not maybe not the next ruler, because it'll be Princess Inez, maybe, but they'll definitely have a lot of power. Now, the Emperor doesn't like being manipulated like this, but he feels like he has no choice, because if he loses control of Arrakis, the spice doesn't come anymore. All the great houses are going to revolt against him, and he's going to lose power anyway. So he feels compelled to agree to this deal, even though he clearly doesn't like it. So he commits to his daughter being married to the son of House Richez. And then in the middle of all this, you have this guy show up, who quickly becomes the most interesting character in this episode so far. Identifies himself as Desmond Clark, is played by Ian Fleming. Trying to remember his name, but he's a really good actor. He and the character is, he's like a kind of like a well-known soldier who has been fighting in Arrakis in the service of the Empire to keep the spice mining come. So he's been fending off the Fremen, and this is like the most dangerous work in the whole Empire. Usually, people who do this only last for maybe a year. Usually, just getting killed. He's been there for. They say he's been there for 12 tours, so I'm guessing at 12 years, and he's still in. And at the last known, what they've heard was that he was killed, but then he shows up, and everyone's shocked that he survived the last attack on the spice mining operations. And he shows up and tells the Emperor, "Look, there's a lot more going on here than just fighting off Fremen and getting away from the worms. This last major attack that almost killed him came from one of the houses that were aligned with the Emperor, so that they could steal all the spice for themselves." And this raises a lot of red flags, because now it's like the Emperor's power is slipping, because if the other families and other the military of the other families, they start going against him, then his rule is just going to go away. So this guy Desmond Clark, he offers his services as he wants to advise the Emperor on how to deal with the situation. And of course the Emperor is like more than welcome to have it, because he's like trying to figure out this whole thing. But in the midst of all this, then he has this engagement party to set up, and here it's his daughter Princess Inez being engaged to the son of the Duke of House Richez. He's like a 9-year-old boy. He has no interest in any of this in terms of the wedding. He knows it's like an arranged wedding. He's just going through the paces. And what you don't see here and can imagine is like they actually had to put like a stool here so that he could stand up on it and be kind of almost level with the princess, because he's just a little kid. He's comes across as a little bratty, which, as you can imagine, a boy growing up in a palace somewhere and all the royalty, just being bratty and like trying to assume that everything belongs to him or whatever, because we can't all be Paul Atreides. So he does come across as a little bit of a brat. He goes through the motions of being engaged to the princess, and during this engagement party, he's more interested in the toy that he brought. He brought this little device. He takes it out, and the princess notices that he's playing with it, and it's like this little metallic ball, and he lets go of it, and it turns into this like I guess the best possible way is gecko maybe, or a salamander, and it's a machine that transforms into a little, and it goes running around through the crowd of the engagement party. Everybody goes into a huge panic, not just because it's running around looking like some kind of rodent, but because everybody's appalled that he has this type of machinery. A certain type of technology, because of the machine wars, has been outlawed throughout the Empire. It's the worst thing you can do is have this type of machinery. And obviously they have technology. I mean, they have ships that fly. They have, all sort of conveniences that are by technology. But what they're saying is thinking machines. And in this case, this device looks like it could just go off on its own and do things on its own without like human interaction. So it's like machinery that can like think on its own or do its own thing. That's like the worst thing you can have. Everybody's appalled that he has this, and it makes kind of sense because it's coming from this house who is known for having technology, but they're kind of like walking a tightrope, having the right type of technology and not being able to go over that line where you have like thinking machines, which would go back and going back into that AI nightmare. So everybody's looking at him like he's done the worst thing in the world. The Emperor he's kind of like not a very decisive person. He's kind of like, not very self-confident. So he's looking around. He doesn't want to ruin the whole thing. So he's like, well, you know what? We're just going to let this go for now because, we don't want to ruin the party. But clearly everyone in the room is appalled that this is happening. And they're all like kind of running around trying to get away from this thing. And Desmond Clark calmly takes his dagger and stabs at it and stops it. And then he's able to kind of like... the machine reverts back to his ball and he gives it back to the kid. But everybody's appalled at the fact that he has this type of technology. Almost ruins the whole thing. Also, the Princess Inez here, who is the Emperor's daughter and the next in line in terms of the ruling. She's you see scenes of her training with fight. Getting trained by a swordmaster who's an Atreides, a swordmaster like Duncan Idaho from the movies, somebody like that, who's training her in terms of fighting. She's also been committed to go to train with the Bene Gesserit for a number of years while this kid becomes of age, so that they actually get married. So then you see a scene where just the night she has her last night at her home planet before being shipped off to the Bene Gesserit. They have this kind of like nightclub scene where there's like all sorts of like, typical nightlife stuff like drugs, drinking, sex, and loud music and stuff like that. It's the one scene in this episode that it kind of like was a little bit out of place. I get it. They're still trying to show that in this universe that those things still happen, but it's kind of a little bit out of play. It just kind of doesn't go along with the rest of the episode. But it was a very short scene, no big deal or anything like that. So then later on, after this whole commotion with the engagement party, the Emperor can't sleep, and he goes into this room where there's like kind of like these hollow projectors, and he finds this recording there, which I believe Desmond Clark was the one who supplied it to him. And he looks at this recording, and it shows a scene in Arrakis where it looks like it's Desmond Clark there in the middle of the desert, and he's got set up thumpers all around him to summon a worm, and the worm comes, and it looks like it kind of engulfs him, and it's like he's completely amazed by this, because it's like, how did somebody like him survive this? And that scene with the Emperor watching this amazing scene goes back and forth between that and this scene, which is Desmond Clark is wandering around the palace, and he sees that the kid who's spending the night there can't sleep. He's like out in the hallways, just like he's going to take out his toy again to play with. And they're having this conversation, and all of a sudden this kid starts like his body just starts burning up, just like as if he's on fire. And Desmond Clark is sitting there like as if he's concentrating and doing it like it looks like on the surface it's some kind of psychic power. I don't know if it is or not, but it looks like it's a psychic power. I don't know where he got this from. There's a lot of mystery to this one character, because how did he survive on Arrakis? How did he survive getting eaten by a worm? Where is he getting these powers from? And there was an earlier conversation with him and the Emperor where the Emperor actually tells him, he's troubled, and he's like, I don't want anything to do with this marriage. I don't want my daughter to be married to this kid, and to be manipulated by this other great house. and he even tells him, if I could get my daughter out of this marriage, it would be, I believe in it. I have faith in anything. And it looks like Desmond Clark, in response to that, is now killing the kid in essence, so that the daughter doesn't have to be married to him. But it's a complete mystery how he's doing it. It seems like he's doing it with some kind of like psychic attack, because he's finding some kind of having problems with his head, something going on with his head, like he's concentrating on it's hurting him. But what makes it even more so is that at the same time as this is happening, the Reverend or the Bene Gesserit truthsayer who was there, being the Emperor's truthsayer, has now gone back to report back to the Bene Gesserit on Wallach 9, and she is also being burned alive in the same kind of manner. So it's kind of crazy that he's able to have this power that not only is killing this boy like 2 feet away, but at the same time is also killing the woman that's like at a planet away. And it's a complete mystery. I don't know how it's doing. I've never seen this type of power being in any of the books or any of Frank Herbert's books or anything like this. So I don't know. I mean, this show is supposed to be loosely based not on Frank Herbert's original books, but the books written by his son, Brian Herbert, along with Kevin J. Anderson. What they've done is like they've taken a lot of notes that Frank left behind and written a bunch of new books on the Dune lore. And you don't know, it's not clear whether that's something that Frank intended. I mean, it's one thing to have his notes, but it's another thing. They don't know what's in Frank's mind. So I haven't really been able to read those books. The style is so different. The stories are not as focused as Frank's, and I don't really like them. So I don't know how much of it is really canon in terms of what Frank's ideas are, but that's what this show is loosely based on. So, and no, I don't think you need to read those books in order to follow the show or anything like that. But again, I've never seen this type of thing happening where someone is kind of like able to do this. I mean, it's possible that it's not really a psychic attack, that it's like somehow he was able to have the boy and the Bene Gesserit sister be exposed to some kind of poison that was like time released, I guess. I don't know. I'm trying to grasp at straws on how this, but it really does look like he's kind of like using a psychic, some kind of psychic ability. So the whole thing remains a mystery in terms of what this character Desmond Clark. But obviously he's here and he wants to. He has something against the Bene Gesserit sisterhood, and he's trying to get in on with the Emperor. He's trying to get the Emperor to trust him so that he somehow is able to go against the Bene Gesserit sisterhood, I think. But we'll see as the series goes by. I thought this episode was pretty good, pretty intriguing. I'm going to give it like a solid 7 out of 10. It didn't blow me away, but I do like the way things got set up. There's some interesting characters like Desmond Clark. The Princess Inez is very interesting. Valia Harkonnen, the leader of the Bene Gesserit sisterhood, is also interesting. So there's a couple of things that I really like that got set up in this episode, and I'm certainly intrigued enough to keep going. So we'll see. Again, it's not something that directly out of any of the Frank Herbert's books. I actually wish that Warner Brothers would make a series out of the other books by Frank Herbert. I think that would be a lot more interesting, and hopefully in the future, if hopefully a show like this can gain enough interest for that to happen, because we know that Denis Villeneuve has already done two movies that covers the original Dune book. He's going to do a third movie that's going to cover the second Frank's book, Dune Messiah. But then there's 4 other ones. There's Children of Dune, which would be great. You could probably do that in two TV series if you're not going to make movies out of them. God Emperor Dune, the 4th book, is actually the Frank's biggest, or the longest one, the longest book, and you could probably get like 3 or 4 seasons out of that one. That one's very, very interesting. I don't want to get too much into it to give too much away, in case people still want to go back and read them. And then he has books 5 and 6, are kind of like part 1 and part 2 of the same story. So you could get another 3 or 4 seasons out of that. And I think those are very, very interesting. Also having a lot to do with the Bene Gesserit sisterhood, and like I said, very interesting. I wish they would do those, but for now we have this series, and I'm certainly intrigued enough to keep watching, and we'll see how it goes. So let me know what you think. Please leave me a comment on what you think about this first episode. I'm looking forward to the second episode, and I'll be back with that sometime next week. And that's it for me. Thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for watching GeekTime TV. If you like this video, please subscribe to the channel. If you subscribe, make sure to check the little bell icon anytime someone from our network drops new content here. Want some GeekTime swag? Check out the merchandise available in the GeekTime TV store, linked in the channel description below. Share GeekTime TV with friends, and as always, thank you for your support. We'll see you soon.